You're listening to Beyond Insights, your go-to podcast for all things accounting, business, and technology.
From cybersecurity and AI innovations to sustainability and work-life balance, we've got you covered.
We host insightful guests from different backgrounds, industries, and locations all around the world.
From this diversity of thought, we aim to find solutions to some of our most pressing business problems.
Thank you for tuning in. Let's dive right in and go beyond insights.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Beyond Insights podcast. In case you haven't joined us before, I'm Alex Hoffman, SIFT's Engagement Manager, and today I'm joined by Radlin, who is here from Sage. Radlin is a practice success manager at Sage. He's heavily involved with ERP systems and learning and development. And he's here today to talk to us about ethical leadership and bringing the human into corporate. So, thank you for joining us, Radlin.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
So, do you want to maybe introduce yourself a little bit more beyond my very quick introduction?
I mean, mine's probably going to be as quick, but my name's Radlin. I'm part of the practice success team at Sage. So essentially, our role is to make sure that our clients are successful from when they're thinking about being with Sage until they are, and hopefully then we develop a relationship to make it long-lasting.
Awesome. And so maybe we can dig into the idea of ethical leadership a bit. Mm-hmm. How do you understand ethical leadership, or how do you define it?
I think we have like a general idea of ethical leadership. So acting with integrity, acting with respect, and making sure that translates to the people that are following, yes, quote unquote, following you. But there's other aspects of it that I think we truly don't look at. So when we're talking about leading with ethics, we're making sure that we are leading the entire organization as a whole. So we're looking at all our stakeholders, our suppliers, our customers, our people, and that, for me, acting in that way with humanism, with trust, with respect, is essentially what ethical leadership will look like. Leading it by example, essentially.
And ethics can be quite a subjective concept. Do you have a particular sort of ethical code, and how do you find that you can translate that to other people in your organization?
I think because, we all come from different ethical backgrounds. For example, you and I, not that we've spoken about it, but we probably don't have the same upbringing. But essentially, when we look in the corporate world, each company, well, I've actually found that some companies don't have this, but each company usually has like a value system. So that should generally be the thing that guides our ethics and then sort of makes it less subjective and more like objective for the entity.
Like, these are the values that this organization holds up and that we would like everyone within the organization to subscribe to.
Outside of like the ethical code, that's like the legal part of the business. Everyone has like an ethical code of conduct.
Yes.
But then within the values, so for example, at Sage, one of our biggest ones is to do the right thing. So essentially, in all our actions with customers, suppliers, and each other, we do the right thing.
I think that's definitely a good value too.
I don't think it's the biggest one. They all should have like an equal weighting, I think. But to me, when I'm looking at our values and how I behave, doing the right thing, being human, being bold, and trust is like I think they just mentioned all our values. But
and the value of being human, how would you define that?
Sure. I think it's easy to talk about what it is to be a human to another human outside of corporate. But for as long as I can remember growing up, when we thought of corporates, and even when we just joined it, it was very, clinical, mechanical. And so I think I'm happy to be a part of the Sage organization, because for us, being human is making sure that as a software, and I'm sure you guys can understand this too, as a software provider in the tech space, there's not a lot of human things happening, essentially. It's very you help yourself on the platforms with the knowledge, with the support and those kind of things. I think us being human is showing our customers that there are people behind these products. Yes. And so it's not just showing our customers, it's also with each other, because now, we work in a hybrid world. So you could meet a colleague for the first time a year later, like I have this week. But to be in person and to have that physical contact or that view of each other helps with the human aspect of it all.
And I think that's become a really big thing, especially after COVID-19, when we all got so used to seeing everyone on a screen, and the debate about, like, can hybrid work? Do we need to be in person?
I think maybe it was I would say universally designed that we all had to be away from each other for such a long period of time, so that we actually started appreciating when we started walking into the office and smiling at each other and greeting each other and shaking hands. It became important to us, so much so now that I have my happier days, and please don't quote me on this, but my happier days are when I have to physically be in the office or physically be with the clients. I feel
Yes.
a lot more empowered than when I'm sitting at home and chatting to myself.
I think it's also something that we really value and prioritize at SIFT. Like we always make sure, for example, our live chat support, those are all real humans. And so you'll see, oh, I'm talking to Wendy or whoever I'm talking to, and they will answer my messages.
And the tone sort of comes through as, this is not a chatbot saying,
Yes.
hi, Val, you
This
can
is
just
a
reach
person.
this. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, exactly. And you're not sort of a cog in the machine. I think that's a big part, especially in a big corporate.
Yeah, exactly. I think, especially in a big corporate, and I think, Sage is like pretty global. So with us, there's so many moving parts. It's always nice to know that you can walk into the office and see human beings. And what's interesting now, and I think we all have a long way to go, but like by us, how we've implemented that is that our CEO, our VPs, they don't have offices. So we're all gently sitting around each other. So it's also pretty hard to tell who's who if you haven't met them before or known them. So it also gives you that thing of you must respect people or you must behave ethically always because you have no idea who you're sitting next to.
Oh, that's really interesting that everyone just kind of sits in the same...
On the same level.
I guess actually we've got the same thing.
Yeah.
We don't have separate like offices.
Yes, we even have a tone that we use. Not a tone rather, but when we refer to each other, it's often when like HR sends an email or when we talk to each other, if there's 5 people that I need to speak to, I don't need to say hi, Peter, John, Paul, and Luke. I can just,
Yes.
we call each other colleagues. So every single interaction will be like, dear colleagues, or, joint colleagues. And so it's that knowing that your leaders and that your subordinates, they're all really just colleagues, humans. It helps us like operate a lot more easily.
And can you think of an example of ethical leadership that you would, I don't know, a time when you felt like someone was really leading very well?
Yes, many examples. I had a time where how do I phrase it? Where we worked, all organizations have a goal outside of just profit, but there's like a goal that we all, like a metric, a KPI that we all need to hit essentially. And initially when I got there at this company, we were sort of like working blindly. Like you weren't sure why a leader was telling you that this is failing and this is why I would need to go and whatever the case may be. And one of the things that I think underpin ethical leadership was transparency in my mind. Transparency is one of the important values there. And we had this new leader take over who was completely transparent when they were being hard on him, completely transparent about where things are going, where we're failing, where we're not failing, where he's failing. And that sort of built a camaraderie in our team, like a big level of trust. And I felt like that's what like pushed us forward. Because I think, I was about to go on a tangent there. I think when we think about leadership in its entirety, it's easy to lead a high-performing team. Those people don't really need to be led. Where leadership and ethical leadership specifically becomes valuable is when you have a team that didn't hit the mark, that failed, that didn't make it. And because you've got this ethical leader in place that's transparent and trustworthy and communicates effectively and openly, you'll find that when the team fails, they still want to come back and do it, like try again, like let's try again, because they're led by someone who's giving them that guidance.
Yeah, I think definitely transparency is a big part of leading ethically and also of building trust in your team.
Yes.
Because if you know that someone's being honest with you, they're saying, look, I know I messed up here actually, and I want to do better, then you feel like it's okay for you to mess up and you can also work to be better.
Especially if the leader is willing to say, hey guys, listen, I was wrong here, or I did this incorrectly. What's your feedback? How do you think I can do better to support your needs? Then we start having a bigger level of trust. We're not feeling like there's robotic things that need to perform at this level all the time. It's sort of like an open conversation and we sort of fail together, succeed together, work together.
And it's a two-way street. It's not just your manager saying, you failed here, you should have done better, I'm always obviously doing the right thing. They're saying, no, we're both, in this together.
I think I don't know if this is correct, but there's like sort of a topic or a paper that I think I read or heard, I don't know where, but they were talking about the difference between transactional management and transformational management. Where transactional management was me walking into an office and saying to, hey, Alex, A, B, C, D, and E needs to be done, versus transformational being like, look, this is what we need to achieve. This is what the company used to have, A, B, C, D, and E.
Yes.
What do you, Alex, think we can change to make sure that we can hit that mark in a better way, and how can I support you to do that? Yeah.
It's also, I think, kind of that thing of not micromanaging people.
Yeah.
So giving them the space and the freedom to say, this is my idea, this is how I think we can achieve this goal that we both want to achieve.
Yeah, I think, and when we talk about that, I mean, I think we're leading up to trust there, where we talk about when you're not micromanaging someone, essentially, you're trusting them to have autonomy.
Yes.
And then we can get to a goal better. You'd find that sometimes, I think, when we're looking at leaders, there are times where you won't have leaders that are on the ground. You know, actually, for example, if we talk about like your support team,
Yes.
sometimes the leader's not taking calls, not answering queries, often. So they don't particularly know what those people are doing. So sometimes trusting them also just to give you feedback on how we're not hitting the mark can become good for the organization and its customers as well.
Yeah, I actually recently had a very interesting conversation with our head of customer success, and she was saying how much freedom she tries to give her team, that they can handle sort of, they all take on different regions and they approach them in different ways. And she said, you know, when she started out as a leader, she had her list of processes and that's what she would sort of train them in. And now she says, because she doesn't spend as much time sort of face-to-face speaking with customers, she says, oh, no, I realize some of my processes may not actually be the best ones. They've probably found better ones now. So it's also that, that ability to let go and say, actually, you figure out the processes that work for you. I'm not going to say that just because this worked for me, it's going to work for everybody. And she trusts them, and then they end up trusting her in return.
Exactly. And I suppose some sort of internal like release of your sense of ego around what it means to be a leader.
Yes.
You need to like separate your identity from that. And then it's going to be a lot easier to allow the people in your team to give you the ideas that will transform it to make the entire team better. Because I mean, if your team is doing well, then it's a good look for you, you know.
Definitely. To bring this back to ethics again, what do you think are some of the, just trying to keep us on our main topic, but some of the kind of signs that your organization is being run ethically?
Signs that we're being run ethically. I think what we try, or what we should try to look for, is leaders that are, because leaders running the organization from a let us lead you this way, and people are following. I think how we know it's being ethically run is maybe there's like low turnover rates. You'll find that higher turnover rates of staff usually come from like not unethical, but rather not ethical leadership. People, I can't trust my manager, or I don't feel safe in this environment. And our generation is heavy on mental health and safety. So when we are not feeling that we can stay, then it usually comes because we're not being trusted, or we're being micromanaged and that kind of thing. And that turnover, a lower turnover, is usually a sign of a company running with ethical leadership. Also, customer retention. Like, what are customers, as much as we're selling them a product, they stay because of how they were treated, not what they were sold. Essentially, when you look at, like, I don't want to use our example, so if you use Apple as an example, Apple is not the only cell phone. There's many cell phones out there, but because the organization is being run with ethical leadership, and everyone in the organization believes in the why, in the why they do what they do. Everyone's working towards that objective, but there are other phones out there. So it's not just about selling the product to the customer, it's about selling the values, the ethical values to the customer as well. If I'm on the phone with one of your support people and I feel respected, which is another underpinning value within ethical leadership, if I feel respected, I'm going to want to talk to that person again, you know, because it was a great interaction. So I think customer retention could also be a great sign that this company is being run by ethical leaders.
And I think that's really the tone gets set at the top. So if your sort of upper management or whoever, your top leaders are not running things ethically, they're not showing respect, then that's probably going to filter down.
Yeah, I would imagine that if your leaders are tone deaf, I think that would be the one. Then
Yeah.
it's sort of, it has to, they're leading you. So surely if you're being led by a tone deaf person, somehow or the other you become tone deaf yourself. And then
Yeah.
you don't see it. I think some leaders are also under the impression that because they are leading, that they are not able to be unethical, when essentially I think they are more likely or more prone to be unethical because of the targets and the pressures that they have. But it's definitely set on the top. And I think when we're looking at the way it's set, it's not just about them telling us to be bold or to be
Yes.
trustworthy or to be human. It's about them being that to us first so that we can be that to them and to our customers.
Yeah, it's like actions speak louder than
Yeah.
words. You're not going to believe, oh, just because we have these words written on the wall must make it true. No, you've got to actually see that in action.
And I would imagine that when you're training your leaders on the values, on being ethical leaders, you want to train them in line with what you expect them to do and teach them how to be ethical leaders, but you also want to teach them how to teach their people
Yes.
how to be ethical leaders. So it's not just them communicating it or even just actioning it, but it's also them transferring that leadership to the people that report to them or follow them.
Yeah, like all the other managers that are then going to go on to manage their own teams.
Yeah. And you would imagine your people who are not managers or have goals to be managers one day. So if you start treating them like ethical leaders now, because I think everyone's really a leader in one way or the other, teaching them now, then eventually that becomes the tone.
Yes.
All the way from the top to
And
the
I
bottom.
liked your reference to the why, that Simon Sinek's idea of everything
Yes,
starts
that
with
circle
why.
of yes.
Also, I
And he
remember
also uses
watching
Apple.
Yes,
Yes.
watching his TED talk and
Yeah.
thinking, this makes so much sense. You start with your why as the core of everything, and if everyone in your company knows that why, and it's an ethical why, that should filter into everything.
And if we're taking his concept and we're using like the ethical leadership, then we're saying to ourselves, okay, as Sage, why are we doing what we're doing? We want to simplify the lives of our customers. We want to make sure that, for example, if we look at our accounting section, we want to make sure that our accountants have streamlined processes so they can spend more time helping their clients succeed financially and in all the ways that they want to. That's the why.
Yes.
What we do. Now, what we need to do as Sage, or what we do rather, is we take the values, being human, being bold, being simple, and being trustworthy, and we link it to that why, and then it all
makes
just
sense.
works. Yeah.
So, I wanted, because when I first spoke to you, you mentioned the importance of the human in corporate. I wanted to go back to why you think that is so important, and how does this influence ethical decision making?
It feels like it's more important now in our generation than it was, and maybe I could be wrong because we were just looking from the outside. But we have, if you look at the way older leaders, and I think you guys don't see that much at SIF because everybody's so young, but when you look at the much
outside lives,
in the older people have a less empathetic leadership style. It's more of a, this is the business, this is the goal, this is the profit, let's go, I don't care who died, who's sick, who's hurt, so like, get the job done, Whereas with us, it's more of an empathy. There's more empathy with us. We're like, how are you feeling? What does it feel like to be here? 3 months later or 3 months into the role, how are you feeling about this? Have you onboarded well? And that is a form of ethical leadership, going to your people, your new people, and asking them, how do you feel? Being a human.
Yes.
Or you feel, I could imagine you must be feeling stressed. So much information, such a big global organization. It's a lot of it. Like, how can I help you ease into this? Do you want to start taking small tasks maybe? And then we build up to where your role should be. But that's the human element of an ethical leader trying to figure out where their people are. And I think that's what drives people to want to follow you or to want to work. You'll find that when people are led in that way, they're not looking at the time like, oh, it's 8 o'clock, let me log off if your job ends at 8. They're happy to be there as long as they need it.
And I think that goes back to how ethical leaders, you can see that they are ethical leaders when you have good retention.
Yes.
Because if you're making sure that your staff are still happy, checking in if they're overwhelmed, seeing if there are different ways to deal with them being overwhelmed, making sure they're not getting burnt out, then you are being an ethical leader.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we know that there are leaders who obviously profits is usually the bottom line. in more cases than not. But I think we need to start looking at the fact that it's profit and people.
Yes.
People are making the profits, and people are buying as well as working for the profit. So, let's get that people conversation in there.
Yeah, actually prioritize the people.
Yes.
Have you seen some of the negative effects when people kind of ignore the human element in leadership?
I have. It goes back to customer retention. It goes to just the tones in some teams. You'll find if you walk into like a really big organization, you could be so confused. Some people are so happy and jovial about their lives at work every day, and other people are like, shoulders down, like I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And it has to do with the human elements. It has to do with how you're being treated. You're an employee, you have a job to do, but it's so much easier to do that job when you can walk up to somebody you report to, a leader, and say, oh, listen, I really made a mistake here. I don't know how to do this, or look, I'm really not coping, Could we start considering that even though we have a deadline, let's make time for pause and for preview and,
Yes.
So it's important. I think that ties how the human element comes in to like keep teams. I don't know if I answered that question.
I suppose, yes, but also it kind of more on the negatives. But I guess
negative.
It kind of goes,
so you're asking if I was exposed to any of
yes,
any
I suppose if you've seen examples of people that were
just morale,
unethical.
Just morale. Like you'll find that people just don't have great morale. I mean, we can look at big examples in the world, like with EdCon, where a negative could be imprisonment, but
to take it to the extreme,
the morale of the team, like the retention of the people, the retention of the customers, the relationship with the suppliers. If you have a bad human element even in your communication with your suppliers, you'll find that you're not getting things on time, and it's not the turnaround time is not working for you. The teams are more stressed out.
Which actually then means if you're one of those people that's very profit-focused and profit over people, you could actually be like kicking yourself in the foot. I don't know if that's the right expression, but yeah.
Shooting yourself in the leg.
That's the one. I was like, how do you kick
yourself in the foot?
Yeah, that's the one. I don't know how you kick yourself in the foot, but because...
we have two. It's possible.
Because you're focusing on profits and you're seeing it as something that's separate from people, you then have all of these negative impacts like, oh, these suppliers don't want to work with you anymore, customers don't want to buy from you anymore, they've had a bad experience with you, and then your profits are actually going to plummet as a result. Yeah. So you really should be investing in your people.
People are as important as profits because they make the profit for you.
Yes.
The people that sell your product are people. The people that support your product are people.
It's not just numbers that happen by themselves. It's really the people behind it.
And I hope that eventually we get to a place where we're now comfortable with the fact that we're taking people into account when we're thinking about profits, and we start considering now the environment and society at large, because that's where we want to go with organizations. We want to get them to yes, profits are important, people are important, because I think there's a study done that's called stakeholder management, where you find more value in business when you are having good relationships with all stakeholders. But we want to get further. How are we treating the environment, and how are we treating society at large? What are we doing for the communities that need us?
It's profit, people, planet.
Profit, people, planet. Oh my gosh. Let's trademark that. Yeah, that's definitely...
Ethical Leadership 101. Remember your 3 Ps.
3 Ps of ethical leadership. Yeah.
What do you think is a good way that leaders can communicate their values?
So I think when it comes to values, it's important for us to understand that everyone already has their own intrinsic, hopefully, they have their own intrinsic sets of values. And they all look very different. What we need to do first as leaders and as people in general in corporations is to make sure that we're looking at the values that underpin the business, that are pushing the business's why. So for us, for example, doing the right thing. And then how do we communicate that to our people is, of course, we need to tell them, this is how you do this is what you need to do, the right thing. And then show them if the opportunity so presents itself, so that we can show them how to do the right thing, and then ask them to do it, but maybe they can do it with you. Let them do the right thing with you, so that you can sort of like, tell me how to do it, show me how to do it, then do it with me.
Yes.
That's the best way I would imagine values can be communicated. I don't think there's always an opportunity for that example, for example, to do the right thing. But essentially, with values in general, I think it's communicating and telling us what the values are important, then showing us how those values are carried out. I think if you think of a business, have value awards, quarterly value awards where our 5 values, we hand out awards every quarter, and how those awards are, how the metric is calculated is if you and I are working together, and I feel like you really showed me in this one project we did together that I can trust you, then I can write there on that place, like I want to nominate Alex for the Trust Award because of, and give the story. That
cool.
could have encouraged us to.
Definitely.
Yeah. Maybe we should all take that to our bosses and be like, let's do it.
It shows you how to recognize it, but also then you have like another reason to try and follow those values.
You motivated, some sort of like incentive involved.
Yeah. How do you see ethical leadership evolving in the future?
I think tying back to that thing I was saying, profit, people, planet. I think ethical leadership now, we're seeing in the world that a lot of companies are focusing on making sure that they are being human and with their people. So exercising respect, exercising transparency, exercising integrity. And that's great in the corporation. How I see it evolving is us pushing that boundary now out to how we're treating the environment, how we're handling the societies we're in. If you're making makeup, for example, let's not test it on animals, or those.
Yeah.
Like where are we going with that in the greater scheme of our planet? Essentially, is where I think ethical leadership will go to.
It makes a lot of sense. How are you contributing to your community? Reaching beyond that, the environment,
and then the planet.
Our 3 Ps. We're definitely trademarking that
forever.
And I think part of what you were saying about how leaders can communicate their values is if you see a leader who's leading in a certain way, and for example, my manager, who I said like never micromanages me, she says, oh, you have an idea, like this is what we're going for, but like try figure it out. Then I know if I'm helping someone else, I'm leading them on a project, I'm also going to try and do that because I remember how much it worked for me.
And that's your manager's your leader, somebody you're following. So essentially you'll start cultivating that same behavior within yourself and then transferring it to everybody else.
Oh, awesome. What would you like people to take away from today's podcast? Aside from the 3 Ps.
I mean, I was just about to say the 3 Ps. Profit, people, planet. Maybe in the other order. Planet, people, profit.
We want to reach all 3 of these, but none of them... profit should never come at the detriment of people or planet.
Yeah.
That's the moral
Absolutely.
of the 3 Ps.
Thank you.
So thanks so much for joining us, Radlin. Thank you, everyone who has watched this episode today, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Insights podcast.
Please like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to right now.
And please share with any of your colleagues or friends or family members that you think might benefit from listening to this podcast.
That's all from us. Until next time, see you then.